It always seems unfortunate when young people, especially teenagers, seal themselves off from those around them. Now, Dory Stone was such a teenager. She seemed filled with inner rage. She didn't talk much around the house or at school. And when she finally made the choice to run away from home, it ended in her accidental death. Well, the policeman called in to investigate found the beginning of a new nightmare, one that defied the benediction, "Rest in peace."
There's nothing I lack.
I wasn't at the funeral. I was called in later when all the weird things started to happen. The cemetery had been part of my beat for 10 years. In all that time, I think I'd gotten 8 or 9 calls, and always on Halloween. But what was about to happen here was something nobody was prepared for. This poor little dead girl, Dory Stone. As sad as it was, at least you would have thought her troubles were over. But the troubles for her and her family were about to start all over again.
Will pursue me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When a loved one passes away, especially when that loved one is a beloved child, it's those who are left behind that suffer. We must all remember that Dory...
10 days later, Dory's mother had a stroke, and she died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital.
I'm sure she would like us all to remember her.
So for the second time in 2 weeks, the family tomb was opened for another member of the Stone family. It was soon after that I got the call to come to the cemetery from the caretaker, Chuck Weber.
Jim!
Chuck was all agitated about something. You could tell that by the way his arms kept flying around, and he was talking a mile a minute. Chuck was kind of an excitable type, but I'd never seen him like this before. It made me wonder what happened that would make him act like this. I figured he must be thinking people would blame him for whatever it was.
Chuck, but I don't know how they done it. All right? There ain't no, the door's locked. It's in here, Jim. Now this is just the way I found it. That's how I found it, just like that.
I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Hadn't this family suffered enough without this kind of vandalism?
How'd they get in? Wasn't there a lock on the door?
Well, yeah.
And the lock wasn't broken?
No, sir.
Is there another way in here?
No, like I told you, Jim, there's only one way in, and that's through this front door here. And that door was locked, and I got the only set of keys. Right there.
I don't like it when things don't seem logical.
Strange.
And I especially don't like it in a graveyard. A few days later, the father arrived. Chuck had cleaned everything up for his arrival.
How about I give you a hand with that, Mr. Stone?
Oh, no thanks, Chuck. I got it. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. How about yourself?
Chuck was kind of anxious for Mr. Stone to see the job he had done. He had worked all night straightening up the damage. Knowing Chuck, he was probably hoping for a tip, or at least a pat on the back. He had no idea what they were about to see when the door was opened.
There you are.
How much tragedy can one man take in a short period of time? My heart went out to Mr. Stone. It was worse than the time before, angrier and more violent. I showed up about 10 minutes later.
Look, I tell you, I don't know what you call security here, Chuck, but this isn't working out, all right? I don't know what kind of sick individual would do something like this, Jim. There's 4 generations of my family that are buried in that crypt.
I understand, sir. Believe me when I tell you we're doing all we can to find out who's responsible. You don't have any idea who might have done this, do you? Maybe somebody with a grudge? A personal vendetta?
No, nobody.
We'll be in touch.
Sometimes the worst part about being a cop is when you let people down. I didn't know what to do, but I was sure going to do something.
What you doing, Jim?
I'm setting a little trap, Chuck. This way, if they come back, we'll get some footprints. single footprint. Nothing.
I was turning the sprinklers off and I heard all this ruckus coming from inside the tomb.
Not here. What the hell did that mean?
Now how could they tear it up like this and not touch the floor?
Or not break the lock. Or have anybody see them.
Sergeant Keene, your office told me I'd find you here. We need to talk.
Sure.
What I'm about to tell you violates a sacred privilege, so you must promise to hold it in the strictest confidence.
I'm listening.
Mr. Stone found his stepdaughter's diary. It revealed incidents of physical abuse, beatings of Dory by her mother.
I had no idea. Well, what does that have to do with what's happening now?
Maybe Dory ran away from home to escape her mother. Now that her mother's back at her side, her spirit can't rest.
Oh, come on.
Look, Sergeant, there are mysteries I don't even pretend to understand.
You're serious?
Yes.
Well, what does Mr. Stone want to do?
The next day, the coffin of the mother who had made her child's life miserable was removed from the tomb. And it was the damnedest thing. All the strange goings-on inside the crypt stopped, and they never started again. Don't ask me for answers. All I have to go by are my police reports. You can read them over 100 times, and believe me, I have. They still don't explain a thing.
Can a spirit be so restless with anger and fear that it provides energy from an afterlife? Or is there a more worldly explanation for this story? Perhaps a cemetery employee was causing the disturbances and covering up his own tracks. If so, why did all the activity stop when the mother's casket was removed? And here's something else to think about. Did this story really ever take place at all?
Was this story true or false? We'll tell you in the final moments of tonight's show. Next, the mysterious bond between a boy and his dog on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.